Hi. First of all, I'm really glad to be here as a Bixby product manager. So probably I think Bixby 2.0 is one of the key themes of this SDC, I believe. Therefore, I think once first session is ended up, many people actually left. My session is much smaller than that. So probably who were in the previous session may be surprised a little bit. So in the previous session, actually the presenter used my picture. It's actually 15 years ago. So after working in the Samsung, so my hair is more gray, and so probably Bixby contributed my hair a lot. So as a product manager, I was so excited actually in this project because probably you know what is the philosophy and features when we design this Bixby. Is actually we more like focus on how effectively the user can use a feature of a phone via voice. So everybody actually familiar with more visual display and touch, but we have to consider how we interpret that such a voice utterance into the user's intention that probably within the phone experience. So in this session, I actually try to talk about a little specific topic about the growth of Bixby. Not in terms of a service itself, I actually really focus on the quality of a service. Because when we design at the beginning, I don't think it's a complete solution. Of course, our engineers said, oh, this is much better than others. Hey, this is better than others. This piece is better than others. But as a product managers, I have to see it differently. So different means that, all right, if we don't really fulfill the user's demand and what user want, how we can do after that. So I really try to explain my experience and found the solutions for those purposes. So probably you know that Bixby was born in May 1st in 2017. I really feel like as a parent, it's just in the market. And right now, I'm really happy to that it has been growing since its first release. So it just spoke the Korean at the beginning, but right now it can speak English, and this service is available in more than 200 markets in the world, and we have more than 10 million subscribers right now, and handled really thousands of millions of transfers since then. But I remember that when I actually used a Bixby for the first time, just after the engineers implement for the first time, and I actually tried to talk to Bixby, and I felt really mixed feelings. Like I was excited. So how these Bixby's work based on what I asked for, but at the same time, I remind me if I speak in right manner or not. So in that time, so if I speak it differently, you may not understand me. So how should we do? That was my first feeling. After that, I felt it's pretty much fine. At least Bixby understood me very well. So actually, our engineer told me I'm really Bixby-enabled man. When I talk to Bixby, I try to try to be careful, to be clearer, so that our Bixby is better understand. But so here is a point. I think the people's expectation that probably when they start using the Bixby for the first time, they probably be okay if some function were sometimes different, maybe utterance, Bixby may not understand. But what if over the time Bixby stand in the same kind of place and not growing, and that is probably the people may not expect. So we think some different aspects. And as a product managers, I really think how effectively grow the Bixby in three different aspects. is training. Training is more like a systematical way. So we have millions of utterances on a daily basis. So we have to use this larger data pool to train the Bixby. Second is to have a qualified data for training. That also is a really cost-effective work, I believe. Therefore, I think we have to think about how we can have the qualified training data out of a user feedback. So that's a teach, I call it. And third one, even if we train the Bixby and probably Bixby is getting better, it's more like a general purpose of users. I mean, there are many different users may use different utterance style from one another. So we have to think some personalization experience, in particular in the utterance model. So that's I call it personalized aspect. So basically, we applied these 3 steps, but we start with actually really utterance analysis form first. So we think at such a larger data, if we really differentiate which utterance is really served well or which utterance may not serve well, if we know that based on the some data analysis, then it could be the training source. It's more like automatical type of analysis. But on top of that, some of our linguistic engineers actually really evaluated all the different type of utterance and they add up the different expression to a specific function. And the teach me is a part of actually the solution to user experience solution to solve this ambiguity problem. But we believe that such a feedback out of a teaching experience really help to create the qualified data training. But still, we want to keep the customization experience in the utterance model. That is a quick command. And even this quick command can be used for extended purpose. I will explain that later. So let's say some utterance analysis of what I mean by it. So when we design the Bixby, we expect specific the model of utterance to call the function. For example, so we support right now so many different device features. So setting, the people may try to use turn off the Wi-Fi. So I normally actually turn off the Wi-Fi when I actually go to office. I prefer to use a network. Then probably I can say to turn off the Wi-Fi. And that's our intention, basic intention. But people may say stop Wi-Fi. We can pretty much think of that expression. And then what about the kill Wi-Fi, off Wi-Fi, stop wireless LAN, stop LAN? So there may be many different type of utterance model. People expect the Bixby to execute turn off the Wi-Fi. So our data tool actually they analyze all the different utterance, what these utterance are closer to the utterance that we intended to design at the beginning, and pick up that data and feed into our Bixby system. Then next time, I think the Bixby would better understand in different expression. And then also the turn off the Wi-Fi actually has stop Wi-Fi and the kill Wi-Fi as the different expression. So turn off can be also interpreted as different things. So that actually help the general natural language understanding by the Bixby. So that is a part of the systematic process to train the Bixby. On the top of that general performance, so Bixby, we have also measured to train the Bixby in certain level of a personalization model. So we have 2 different personalization, I said, at least for platform features. One is the acoustic model. I mean, the people may expect at the beginning, sometimes it may not perfectly translate because of a lack of a performance of a speech recognition, or if that is a problem our engineer have to solve. But in my case, for example, I'm Korean. I have a different accent and different pronunciation. So over time, so I expect, Bixby would understand me better. So we have some of a systematic way to enhance some personal acoustic model. At the same time, I have a different preference in the using the service, and this service might need some data. Then Bixby can use that data in improving the personal language model as well. So, for example, when you try to call somebody in your friends, maybe you call James or call Jimmy, whatever. Then if the name is in contact, then Bixby better understand your friend's name compared with other arbitrary random name from the website. So we try to design a little more personalization experience on the top of our current platform. But what is actually implication out of our experience in designing this system that if the training data is not enough qualified one, the improvement is really marginal. So we want to actually try to think how we effectively get qualified data. The best data we believe is user's feedback. So let me talk about some of Bixby features. So we have like 6,000 different functions we support. It's more like a device control and the user interface. And Bixby actually use the device context. I mean, if I said change font size on web browser while I'm looking at the website, so Bixby understands, maybe change a font size of a web browser instead of a global setting. So that context combining such a huge number of functions and the different context in the application, creating a lot of different situations to interpret user utterance into the function we have to execute. So our engineer tried to solve this problem perfectly, but tomorrow one of our chief engineer will explain how's his approach. But even if he said, I can handle this problem entirely, but as a product manager point of view, maybe yes, maybe 90% yes, but still there is a 10% of a corner case or 10% a user may have a problem in using the Bixby. Then we know that, this is a limitation that how we solve this problem in different ways. So we think user experience model has to be in, then we have to give users a chance to fix this problem manually. So Teach Me feature actually was designed for that purpose. So currently our Bixby, when utterances came into the platform, it actually analyzed the utterance and the context. Then if there is ambiguity, we have some definition within our system design. So then Bixby think probably what else he can do. So for example, changing font size is very, very clear, but changing maybe the bigger text. So probably some of the ambiguity in the natural utterance model by user. So in this case, how then Bixby can do, maybe there are multiple options. We probably think user one. So one way that we try to give that option to user, that is probably some of Bixby user may experience that is a rule chooser, we call it. So if there is highly likely multiple the function and features would be considered as a solution of some utterance analysis, then we give several options. So that is one way. But even if we try to solve this problem by the user experience model, so anyway, Bixby mis-execute, and user have some kind of a problem. And then we give an option so that the user manually feedback, specify what's wrong with him. And then we actually select that data to train the Bixby so that the Bixby do better after that. So this is a specific form of the teach me experience. So probably many users saw that. Once you click the teach me, is the left side of the pictures, and then you can see the correction section. It actually has contained the two different sections. The first one is AES, the speech recognition part. So for example, in Korean, normally we don't have any th pronunciation. So even myself sometimes use this picture instead of this picture. So at the beginning, Bixby just understand based on the commonly used the speech recognition engine. Then, so it interpret is this. Then maybe that function may not work. Share this picture with my friends, but if th this can be interpreted as a dis, then probably it cannot work correctly. And we give option user to fix this problem. Once the user click what part of a sentence Bixby may not understand correctly in terms of a speech recognize, then user can correct it. So that happening probably repeatedly, and the user correct repeatedly, then that specific case can be applied into the user's personal language model. And next time, then when user speak this, Bixby understand, that mean by different. So that is also one part of the user's feedback and the correction. Second part is more like intention interpretation, I mean. So as I said in previous example, maybe I said change system font size while I'm looking at the internet browser. Then that actually really meant that I want to change the system font size to see my menu more clearly. But because of a font size change, Bixby may understand, this is a web browser context, so we have to provide the font size of a web browser, the content, instead of a system font size. But I actually look at it, but I click the teach me and try to correct the Bixby that, hey, Bixby is not the change of font size of web browser, even if I actually say the change system font size under the web browser context. So I can actually teach Bixby in that way. Then our rule mapping engine actually also train them and understand next time. Even if I actually just said change your system font size, then it start understanding. So we actually really consider the correction part in two different ways. But problem actually in designing this model is more like an engineering work. But our problem actually is different. How motivate the user keep using this feedback? So I don't think we solved this problem perfectly yet, but definitely if the feedback itself is immediate, I mean, so once I click and correct, then system, maybe improvement is really visible to user. That's the best way. But I don't expect any other service really can reflect all this correction in the real time. So we try to design then a little different type of a user experience model. So it's not part of a Bixby, but we try to design some numerical measures to motivate the user based on their usage. So at the beginning, we try to design some recurring experience point to represent how much Bixby be educated by users. But systematically, it's not perfectly correlated yet. But at least we design these numerical measures according to how much user use, and then how much user really feedback to Bixby. So there are little correlation between these numerical measures and how much Bixby can be trained, so that at least user really experience like Bixby is growing over the time. After I think launch, this experience point is pretty much has a good feedback, I believe. Not in terms of more like a numerical measure, in terms of some gamification and some cross experience with other service. So because this is a numerical measure, so for example, we actually applied some user engagement program with Samsung Reward in US market, and we actually give some of reward point based on the experience point number. So that kind of a user experience, user engagement is a work. But I believe that we can improve how visually present Bixby's the level of growth to user is still needed to be improved, so that we have to keep users giving us feedback. So this is part of more like a train and teach. But we think a little different because people still want to use their specific autonomous model to execute the function. In particular, one of the longest command that Bixby support, for example. So in gallery, we say created album titled New York Travel, and move the pictures taken in New York to that New York travel album. It's quite a long sentence, but it's actually one function of a Bixby supported. So when we design that, everybody like, oh, crazy, who's use it? But it's useful. However, if I know and specific autonomous model, probably quite useful. But because there's a wrong sentence, there is a high chance I experience some malfunction in the speech recognition if sentence is longer. Therefore, I think we try to give more shortcut to execute that type of a command. So for example, New York picture, then we execute that function. So that is a start point. We think the macro type of a service called quick command. The other way that, the other motivation that even if Bixby is growing, it may not fully understand individual speaking style. So I said clean the message. So that means I want to delete all my draft in my message application. So I really make my message application clean. But Bixby may not understand. Clean the message is a delete message or maybe entirely delete all message. There is an ambiguity in understanding that clean the message utterance. Then we try to give a user configuration of that clean the message utterance into some function to delete over all message. So this is a basic the intention we designed the quick command. A quick command can be used for other purposes. Probably today our CTO demonstrated. So why I think this quick command is useful in two aspects, I believe. One aspect that we give some of opportunity user to create a new type of experience by single command. So in this case, your habit is take a picture in specific mode and probably manage this picture in specific folder based on the mode, and then post this picture to Instagram. So they'll require 3 applications and the multiple steps to do. But one single command can make this happen by multiple quick commands, our features. So this actually also implied another opportunity. Probably developers also think about it. Once your application is a Bixby enabled, so think about in case that probably you have to access some picture. Then you want to actually take this picture in your service, for example, social network. To access certain pictures, probably you need some access right and user consent. Maybe picture is definitely provided by the general API, but what else information like schedule in our calendar application or something else, message data. So because Bixby understands the context of a native application means, so when you open the message, that specific message, then you probably can share this message to my friends. And then Bixby capture this message, and based on that message, Bixby find your friend and send that message to your friend. So because Bixby can capture the context of an application, you probably leverage it along with our multi-command. So you can design like, take a picture, and then open this picture and apply the sum of effect, and then ask a user to post in your application. So you can design this by one simple command and use it as a promotion. So once the Bixby enabled, then probably we can leverage this multi-quick command in many different ways. So even I can use actually parameters because we support the cognitive tolerance features. So I don't really specify the album name. So I just create the album and move all my pictures just taken into that album. Then Bixby asks you, what is the title of the album? Once I put the title, probably by touch, and it actually creates that album, and then move the picture you specify to that folder. So that is the experience we expect out of this multi-quick command feature. But definitely, I think Bixby 2.0 mentioned in today's keynote and the previous session may provide a deeper personalization experience, particularly across service and cross application. So this is an important aspect because as in previous session, the VP Bak Songpa, actually Brad, his Korean name is Songpa, his English name is Brad. So Brad actually presented that this is a purely open market service based on the platform. So understand the personal preference selection behavior, really important. Otherwise, how we can handle such a theoretically infinite number of service in the market. So we really make that personalization feature deeper in Bixby 2.0. So here I just pick up a few examples of the feature. We call it Bixby training, teach personalization, and maybe you probably know what is a general feature of a Bixby while you are using the Bixby, I believe. So I really, expect you probably try to use it, and maybe you can experience like how the Bixby is growing as well. So thank you for your pay attention, and probably I can have some question from you.
Before we move on to the questions, could you please fill out the survey forms, and when you are leaving out, you can drop in the box. We're going to have a draw to win Galaxy Note 8. Survey forms.
Yes, please.
Questions?
I understand that Bixby was designed as mostly user interface, the phone, Galaxy phones, not as like personal assistant in the beginning. So, do you have any like different focus as you move toward 2.0 in terms of the emphasis on user interface versus personal assistant?
So I think that was really mentioned in our keynote, I believe. So definitely we focus on the more interface and the user experience within the phone by Bixby current version. But definitely next version is more like a user experience and service, and the more like a personal assistance, so that the user experience, user can use cross and services and cross devices experience.
Because Bixby will go beyond phones.
I think it's more than technical challenge, I believe. It's a user experience model. So what people's perception on the more like interface versus assistant. So we think there is a really difference as a user's perception. So for example, in controlling all the interface, probably we assume user probably try to execute Bixby based on the screen they have seen. But in the assistance, the user probably more speak about the goal they want to achieve. So the experience model is different, I believe. Technology-wise, of course, maybe some part of the technology is better than others, so definitely we can employ.
Hi. So as I understand it, this quick command feature and the multi-quick command is going to be in Bixby 2.0. Is there some SDK that developers can use to integrate the commands into their application if they want to start supporting it?
I think a detailed feature would be maybe introduced in later on. Definitely, if we support a certain feature in our Bixby aspect, definitely that has to be a part of also platform features, we believe, and third-party developers can leverage it. So that is a basic principle.
Should actually follow up on that same question. Can we have our own customized commands specific to our app, like our Android app?
So your Android app, what do you mean by? Is it without Bixby integration?
No, with the Bixby integration, but the customized commands, like which are not, which may not be like comes with the flagship Bixby commands.
I think this quick command in particular is more like the configuration feature to users. So anything is possible, but user has to use it. So what I think we do before, when we introduced the quick command in the market, we actually developed just a recipe how so effectively user can use it. So we probably support in that way, but definitely the designing the quick command by user is our principle.
Thanks.
Hi. There's like a lot of blog entries about Bixby coming to German this year. Is that true?
I don't think that's true.
I don't think that's true. Okay.
But yeah. Maybe in previous session, my colleague Brad already shared a plan, so it has been next year. Can you use a microphone?
Yeah, I joined the session a little late, so maybe you covered it. So is there any search engine being used behind, or you said it's just a user interface, Bixby. So what's the search engine that's powered behind in the Bixby?
I don't think we have a separate search engine for only Bixby. So definitely there are search functions within our phone, but it's a separate service. Yeah.
Okay.
So her question, when you say Bixby find Jim Brown, it's not using a separate search engine, it's using the one that's already searching for it.
Can you use a microphone?
All right, when you say there's not a separate search engine, when you use search, when you tell Bixby to find something, it's using the existing search that's already on the device?
That is, Bixby just control the phone. When you ask search something, if something is, for example, keyword, it uses your default search engine within the phone. So it's a Google, then use a Google. It's maybe different, and in Korea, in the neighbor, and the people you can keep using the neighbor. If that is like a PY, then it can be used by the mapping application.
Does Bixby like supported only in Samsung devices or non-Samsung devices also? Like, does Samsung has any plans to roll out Bixby on non-Samsung devices?
Based on the current Bixby service, we don't have any plan to extend a non-Samsung device, probably 2.0 and further, maybe further version, we probably think about it, but right now we don't have any plan.
Hey, I've just got a question about the personalization of Bixby. So you're going on about how the utterances are more personalised and they kind of pick up your accents. So for instance, obviously I'm Australian. So does that, if I'm using Bixby and the way I'm talking gets retrained and it learns to pick up my voice, does that data then go back up and help to retrain to like recognise other Australian accents, or is that data that gets retrained held onto the device?
So the data just what you are using right now is more like the source of general training, and some pieces actually we try to personalization, and definitely currently we are improving the performance based on that. But basically, we train the overall model first, and then add up the little difference in the personalization. But we have some separate the speech recognition system to understand different accent commonly used in the different people. It's a Korean, for example, and the Indian and the British, and that's quite different from the US. So that can be supported by the general platform. In 1.0. I explained some current model. That's actually we are trying to see, but I'm not sure whether it can be a part of. But I think that's the Brad the previous session explained. So there is a more serious challenge even for that shared device versus mobile phone right now. So therefore, we try to solve this user experience problem first, and then try to deep dive about it.
For forms of English in other places, is the vocabulary changed as well? Or is it all sort of standardized to, let's say, U.S. English? Are there variations in Australian? Yeah, right.
That's we don't have it right now. So I think it's a good point, but we actually really systematically collect the different vocabulary from the utterance by the sum of tool. So as I explained, we have millions of utterance daily basis. Therefore, I think we sample and pick up the utterance automatically. Yeah. There is no specific user to add up the utterance yet.
Any questions?
Yep. I think your phone's personalization means like the maybe profile and application.
No, I mean as the information as Bixby learns, right, and it learns the way that I speak or the things that I ask for. That will be on my personal device, but then is that shared across the Bixby platform? Does that somehow go up to a Bixby cloud that then you use across all of Bixby?
Yeah, definitely. That information, that's ongoing usage information, I believe. So as I explained, that can be used for some of our personal model as well as also general model. Yeah.
So the personalized model is in the cloud or on PC, on the smartphone?
I think it's better maybe we specify by the engineers, but we actually consider it the cloud.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your time, Euntaek.
Thank you.